Shalom, this is Beit Bamidbar Messianic Outreach. My name is Gene. This is our Wednesday evening Bible study, and today is February, what is it? 12. Yeah, I lose track of dates and times too easily these days. Um, okay, so we're going to be picking up, let's see. First things first, let's do the bulletin. All right. So, the date on the bulletin is set for this coming Sabbath, so this is a couple days early compared to today, and that's okay. Um, if you're thinking of a nice, pleasant drive, come on up here 9:30 in the morning, and it's open to the public, so anybody can come, and the address is there on the bulletin. Um, okay. Following the worship time, we'll have semi-traditional Shacharit prayer service, Shabbat Shacharit, and then a discussion on the weekly Parsha. Our reading for this week, which is Yitro. This is, let me tell you a story about a man named Jethro, that is. Okay. Um, and we have a fancy Yeshua in Hebrew there in our graphic. Continually pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It just seems like things get a step forward and two step back sometimes, and just keep praying that God makes everything happen and end up the way He had planned it, which I thoroughly expect. Um, it's just the big surprise is going to be for us. I didn't think that was going to happen. Okay, next week is Parshat Mishpatim, Judgments, and the reading is right there. So be sure to read ahead so you're ready to discuss the Parsha. Okay. Weekly meetings, of course, Wednesdays at 6:30. So if you're reading this, you are at the meeting, and that's good. And upcoming events. Let's see. Actually, this is tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah, tomorrow is Tu B'Shvat, the New Year for trees. So it's still a little chilly and frozen in the ground. So our Tu B'Shvat is going to probably be a little bit later. Um, but in Israel, it's time to plant trees. And so that's this. So that's the time for planting the trees, the time for counting the years of the trees, um, and um, and all that's fun and good. Okay, next month in March we have a bunch of stuff going on. Shabbat Shekalim on the first, Rosh Chodesh, the month of Adar, which is the final month of the year. And then we have stuff going on in the middle of the month. We have Purim. Yay! And we'll talk about that more. Oh, that reminds me. Come Purim. Um, uh, do you guys want to gather, or actually for our regular meeting on Wednesday um, that week, the 13th or the 12th, should say? Do you want to do a Purim celebration on the 12th in lieu of our regular Bible study, and we can read the you know the yeah Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther, and we can ooh and ah and boo and hiss. We can do it online together on Wednesday,
Yeah.
be Wednesday the 12th.
Piece of
What do you
nuts.
guys, what do you think? You want to do something like that?
Yeah,
Okay,
sounds
so
good
read
to
the
us.
Gina. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll put it in the bulletin um, for next week and start reminding ourselves that it's coming up. So we'll do it online on the 12th and we'll have a time. Give you a chance to practice your not the latkes, but the hamantaschen. So um, can practice our recipes. Okay, then the rest of the month, after Purim, then starting to prepare for um, Rosh Chodesh, Aviv, which is the beginning, the first of the month, first of the months, technically the first of the year also. And then Pesach will be on Saturday evening, April 12th. And we'll be we'll be doing ours here. Um, and I don't know if you guys want to do anything online together for Pesach, or you want to do that at home with the families. Your choice. Okay, kind of something to think about. We got a little bit of time before we're there. Okay. Any questions, comments, rebukes as far as the bulletin is concerned? Okay, let's get into our study. Shalom, James and Mary. Let's see, where are we? Bulletin. There we are.
Rabbi,
Yes,
maybe I have a question. And
yes,
so, since the Yitro, right, the pronounce is right, the Moses is the father-in-law.
yes.
Why put him? Because he is now Jew.
Um, yes, he's not.
But,
But he was titled as a prophet of God, a priest of God, I should say.
oh,
God Most High. So that's fairly serious. Um, it's interesting because what this means is God does not use Israel exclusively and only, or anybody that's Jewish exclusively and only, but rather God works with whom He chooses, and this is a great example that we um, even if you're not Jewish, you can belong. Okay,
mm-mm.
so it's kind of interesting, that Yitro was he's known as a priest of God Most High. So, and then he, later on, um, actually in the next reading, I think he puts on a big sacrifice. He does the sacrifice, and everybody eats before God, like a feast before God, and God seems to accept that because he doesn't smack Yitro down and turn him into a puddle of oil or something like that. So um, God's ability to use people is not dependent on whether or not they are Jewish. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he may choose to prefer the people that he has chosen to make for a name for himself, but it doesn't prevent him from using other people. Okay? Uh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so can you say another person is non-Jew and is a God put on the history, the Jewish history?
Well, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They weren't known as Jews before that. Um, that's a start. Um,
There was Melchizedek
Melchizedek.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and also Cyrus. Wasn't it Cyrus, king of is it Persia?
Yeah.
He used them as God used them as his servants.
Yeah.
Oh, so those people all influence Jew a lot. Yeah, they do wonderful job for not only for God but also for Jew. I guess
Yeah.
so. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. In our reading this week, God states that he wants to call Israel a nation of priests, a kingdom of priests. Okay, Kohanim. The idea for that statement is that God designs for Israel to have a role of teaching the knowledge of God and how to live by God's ways to the world.
Okay.
Excuse me? Sorry.
Okay, is debit or credit? Debit? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That would be me. Sorry, Rabbi.
Yeah, you might want to turn off the microphone when you're not, so you can talk to your customers.
Okay.
That threw me off, debit or credit. I'm thinking we don't have any commerce going on the website, so it's all right. Okay. Any other questions, comments, rebukes before we go on? Okay,
Maybe another question.
sure.
But this time is around the world already the same scripture, right? Because last night I joined the Chinese the Torah reading and take an exam the Yitro Moses' father-in-law the son son is all be designed is every how say all read the same scripture right?
Okay, I'm not sure what.
Can you repeat it against Sophia, please?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I feel it's every week assignment read the same Torah.
Yeah, somewhere in Torah?
Uh, be- By this timing, I say everywhere, all read the same scripture from Bible.
Karen, are you able to help?
Okay, yeah, because yesterday I joined the group. They mentioned
Well, I do not know who. I think she joined Joyce for Torah study yesterday,
Oh,
and she had a question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I don't understand her question either. So
yeah.
Are you able to say it in Chinese?
Karen can say Chinese.
你想要问什么？
哦，不是，因为就是因为我好像是这个每个地方角落都在就在今天，就是每个 week 都是同样的 sharing 的 same scripture. I want ask this.
同样的 scriptures，可是现在我们就是读 Zechariah 11章啊，我们也不是读Torah。所以你问的问题，我们今天的问题是 Zechariah 第11章。你昨天 Torah study 是Yitro，跟今天的是没有关系啊。
但是有点关，因为我不晓得要怎么讲，那没关系，这个问题 skip，OK，no problem，yeah，OK。
Okay.
你想要问什么？
我是说，在犹太人的 tradition 是不是在同样的时间都练同样的 scripture？My question is this.
Maybe after this.
Yeah, maybe after the study we can stay
So
on.
she asked like in the Jewish tradition is during the time, the season, they read the same scripture. like now we are reading Yitro.
Yeah.
So in probably I think her question like is in Israel. Are they also doing the parasha Yitro?
Yes.
The whole
Yeah, 全世界在犹太全部都是现在要这个 district 的 parasha 就是 Yitro。
yeah.
OK，
对
这样。哦，就是同样做那个 reading 同那个 scripture same scripture。OK，that's it。
对对，哼。
OK，thank you，I understand。Yeah。
Okay.
Yeah, that's what she wants to know is like everywhere around the world, are they doing the same
Yeah.
parasha?
Not necessarily. Different groups of people have different reading courses, reading lists. But and it's not even the Torah readings are different from some groups of people. So it's not an absolute that absolutely everybody in the world is reading the same scriptures in the same week. It's the traditional reading cycle is probably the most common, but other people do things differently. And there really isn't a commandment in scriptures that says we have to follow a particular schedule, or that there even has to be a schedule. So, it's not the end of the world if a different group of people has a different reading for this week.
OK， 你懂他说吗？不是说，就是也不是100个percent，就是每一个人，有些人有自己的读法，大概是全部就是读 parasha Yitro， 可是有些人他们就不跟他们自己的方法，所以一家跟一家是不大一样。其实肯定就是 parasha 是这样，可是有些人的跟法会跟别的，是看每一个人。
这个可不可以请问，这个是从什么时候开始？就是说他们就有这样 assignment， 就是好像有一个不成文的规，就是变成隐约，好像是一个 follow。
就是你的意思是说每一周的 parasha， 这个是从创世纪开始，是几时开始，对不对？
哦，就从很久就开始，很早就开始了，是这样的。
Okay.
She wants to know, like, when was the beginning of the parasha? Since when that they have this parasha going on?
Yeah, we need to move on with our study, but the short answer is after Israel returned from Babylon, it was decided that people needed to be reading the scriptures on a regular basis, and formulated. It said that the Great Sanhedrin, which was gathered after the return from Babylon, set up the system.
Okay, I got the idea now. Thank you, Rabbi. Yeah.
All right, that's good. Zechariah 11, chapter 1. Open your doors, Lebanon, that fire can consume your cedars. Wail cypress, because the cedar has fallen, those splendid trees are ruined. Wail, oaks of Bashan, because the thick forest has been felled. Listen to the wail of the shepherds, because their glory is spoiled. Listen to the roaring of the young lions, because the Yarden's thickness are plundered. This is often, commentary after that. This is often interpreted as both literal and figurative. Okay, so the place names and the other identifications. Lebanon often used as referring to the best, the North Country. For example, the cedars of Lebanon are always cited as being the best of the trees, and so Bashan is that good country, or desired by Gad, Reuben, and half of Manasseh. Remember, when they finally get to where they're about to enter the promised land, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuven, and half of the tribe of Manasseh decided they wanted to stay on the east side of the Jordan River for their cattle. And so Bashan is referencing that good country on the east side of the Jordan. Okay, and then of course the Jordan, the pride of Jordan, the river valley itself, and on the west side, especially, on both the west side and the east side of the Jordan River is the land of Israel. Okay. Now, what does all this mean? Well, some of the speculations are that the cedars represent the nobles, the cypress and the firs represent the commoners, and all are tall, strong trees. So there's these are, at this point, it's kind of a positive identification. But my thought was, what if we apply modern politics to these images? What if the trees and locations refer to Muslim people and governments in these last days? Okay. And so I was just, it was a curiosity, so I ran with this. Okay, Lebanon, the country just north of Israel, it's a Muslim country. The cedars, the cypress fir, mighty trees, are powerful people. Mighty ones are to be violently destroyed by God. Bashan, east of the Jordan River, Jordan is a Muslim country. Thick forest, inaccessible forest. The inaccessible forest will be cut down. Wailing shepherds, the sheikhs and imams bemoaning their failure. Roaring lions, Israel roaring in her strength. In the pride of the Jordan, the Palestinian territory. And so in setting this up on this exploration of interpreting this is what I came up with as what this could possibly reference to. And this would be, if you look at it this way, this is actually a prophecy for something that's soon to be accomplished. So looking at it this way. And I'm not saying this is the only proper way of interpreting this section of the prophecy. I just did this out of a curiosity to see if it works or how it works. Talking about all the countries around the land that's going to be given to Israel, and the people around the surrounding lands, how cooperative are they to Israel being there? Okay. Okay, let's move on. Chapter 11, verse 4. Adonai, my God, says this: shepherd the flock for slaughter. Their buyers kill them and go unpunished, while those who sell them say, Baruch Adonai, now I'm rich, even though their own shepherds show them no pity. Okay. So that's kind of an interesting description. And so we need to look at the phrases and see what it means. The phrase "feed the flock for slaughter," excuse me. Re'eh et son harega means to feed a flock. It is literally small cattle like sheep and goats. The slaughter. Okay, that's pretty literal to what's there in the Hebrew. In other words, prepare them or feed them, take care of them because for the ultimate purpose of being slaughtered. Although feed is a correct translation, it seems prepare or organize would be a better translation. In modern terms, we feed items into a machine to be processed. Perhaps this is a better understanding and appears to fit the context. In other words, organize and feed these nations into the grinders. So the question is, though, what is missing? So the flock, notice the terminology, the flock, not my flock. That makes a difference, okay? It's possibly not God's flock that's the target of this slaughter. This suggests God is talking about the nations around Israel and not Israel itself. Okay. If this section speaks to the future or present, where Islam kills people, including their own people, then the result is the masters of their countries enrich themselves and say they are blessed by their own God. Many Muslims believe the oil wealth their countries possess is a gift from their God, even though that wealth is used to kill their own people as well as non-Muslims. Part of the sad history of this region is there is more warfare and more killing between Muslims than there is against Israel. And given a chance, they will go to war against each other. And you have, two main branches of Islam, the Sunni and the God, I'm blanking. What's that? His not no, that's a
Shia?
yeah, the
Sunni and
Shia. Thank you, Sunni and the Shia, and they are extremely at odds with each other, and so they will gladly kill each other to make supremacy over the other. The only occasion they will drop that conflict is if they decide they want to go after Israel. Then maybe they'll be at peace with each other long enough to go to war against Israel. But again, they may end up in this, it's possible that in Revelation, the prophecy of the gathering for the battle at Harmageddon, excuse me, that God will make these armies that come against Israel fight against themselves, and it's the stage is already set for that to happen. That the armies will fight against themselves before they even start worrying about going against Israel. Okay, so if in this point of view, if so, there is a problem, as verse 5 uses Jehovah, the personal name of God, for the name of the God of Islam. Okay, in reading this out. On the other hand, there was no God of Islam at the time of this prophecy, and the use of Yehovah could be used in a twist to indicate these people believe their God is supreme. That's sort of my explanation of that conundrum. The conundrum uses the personal name of God in verse 5. And so, so the first thing is, well, how can we use the personal name of God? If this is the God of the people who are going to go to war against Israel. And that's my best explanation right now. So take it as you wish. Any questions, comments, rebukes at this point? Okay. Again,
this is a pretty unique take. I'm really interested in this.
yeah. Yeah, when I taught through this before, this one sort of just popped at me when I was working on this thing. How do I explain this thing? And I'm not sure I have all the answers right on this, and I'm not sure if even this is a correct look at this. But this is my best take on it right now. Okay. So chew on it, see if you like it. If not, um, I'm not saying anybody's in trouble with God if they don't agree with me. Okay. Any other question, comment, or rebuke? Okay, let's go on to verse 6. I will no longer show pity to the inhabitants of the land, says Adonai. No, I will hand every one of them over to the power of a neighbor and to the power of his king. They will crush the land, and I won't rescue them from their power. To continue this idea along, the nations, especially the nations that are Islamic, have warred against each other. and try to destroy each other at one time or another. So it seems to fit. Okay. And that's my explanation, that God will allow the Muslims to kill each other and destroy other's land. God will not protect or aid any one side. I think part of what helps this idea is at the time, the war between Iraq and Iran, can't remember if it was still going or was just freshly ended when they finally exhausted each other enough to where they finally decided they wanted to quit. And so that was kind of prominent at that time. Okay. Notice the use of Yoshveh, the dwellers of, in this phrase, not my people, and haaretz, the land, not necessarily my land. So when we're talking about the people in the land, it's God's not calling it my people and my land. It's talking about those people, the people and the land. So there's a subtle difference there. And that suggests that maybe this prophecy isn't about Israel or the Israelis or Jewish people, but rather this is the other people in the lands surrounding. Okay. Okay. This does not read as God usually. This does not read as God usually refers to Israel, the people, and Israel, the land. This reads like modern times, even the news going on right now, because the nations around Israel aren't feverishly at war with each other, but it wouldn't take much for that to happen. And we've even just had a popular revolt in Syria. We have the forming of a new government, and um, that was a bloody affair. So the Syrians were fighting Syrians. Okay. Questions, comments, rebukes before I go any further?
Yeah, maybe I'm sorry today. Maybe I'm so many questions.
That's okay.
Did you have heard how say the USA send a lot of condo to the Hamas, but this is eventually by the Israel. Is right? This news.
Yeah, I've heard that. I still not entirely sure how that's going to be done, if even if the people there will agree to it. I'm not sure. It's an interesting idea. I think President Trump is using his experience and eye for opportunity for land development, is saying, rather than forcing people to stay in the wrecked buildings, move everybody out, rebuild something new, let them come back in, um, and do it up right, do it up nice, and maybe if you make somebody a really nice neighborhood, they're not going to want to blow it up. At least I think that's what he's thinking. But we've already heard pushback from Hamas that they're not interested in leaving the land in any way, shape, or form. So, but this very early in the negotiation, so things can happen. So it's entirely possible that there's entirely possible this is a different look, a different way it's going to play out than what I'm suggesting here. So just keep in mind, and we'll see what happens. Okay, verse 7. Let's continue on.
Thank
So
you.
I shepherded the flock for slaughter, truly the most miserable of the sheep, and I took 2 staffs for myself. I called one Noam, which means pleasantness, and the other I called Hovalim, which is bound together. And I shepherded the flock. Okay. And so literally the poor of the flock, aniye hatson, meaning poor or afflicted, humble, wretched of the flock. Okay. So these were not the best. Okay. And compare this to Matthew 9, verses 35 to 38. I've got it here. Okay. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers few. Yeshua went about all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every kind of disease and weakness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harried and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his Talmidim, his students, "The harvest is rich, but the workers are few. Pray that the Lord of the harvest will send out workers to gather in his harvest. These leaders have no compassion for the people in their charge, so God takes them away by great slaughter." Okay. So it's kind of an interesting second potential for looking at this chapter. Maybe it could represent Israel at the time of the Roman conquest, Israel's rebellion and the Roman conquest. Okay. So beauty, noam, of course, means kindness, pleasantness, delightfulness, beauty, and favor. And that was the British spelling of favor, just because that's where it came from. Bonds, chovlim, means to tighten a cord, to twist, and thus to bind, and would represent the bound ones, the ones who were tied up. Okay. These are a couple of translation suggestions here if you're interested in looking at that. Then we go back to verse 8 in our text. In a single month, I got rid of 3 shepherds because I grew impatient with them, and besides, they detested me. Little side comment on the business of what Zechariah was doing. A little business comment here. He had to fire 3 guys because they weren't doing right, and besides, they were angry with me. This is sort of a side note on the business. Dismissed the 3 shepherds in 1 month. Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, back to the Islamic model. Changing governments in rapid sequence, question mark. Okay. So we have a potential for this to be a sign that God's action is that 3 different shepherds, 3 different countries would be changed in leadership in 1 month, or be removed in 1 month. It's close. Currently it's Syria is the one that has a new leadership or changing leadership. But we'll see how this all develops. Okay. My soul loathed them. And what does this mean? Well, it's a warning against idolatry. Okay. The same phrase is used here in Devarim, Deuteronomy 12, verses 29 and following. When Adonai your God has cut off ahead of you the nations you are entering in order to dispossess, and when you have dispossessed them and are living in their land, be careful after they have been destroyed ahead of you, not to be trapped into following them, so that you inquire after their gods and ask, how did these nations serve their gods? I want to do the same. You must not do this to Adonai your God, for they have done to their gods all the abominations that Adonai hates. They even burn up their sons and daughters in the fire to their God, for their gods. Burning their sons in fires in the fire, in a sense like a shaheed, that's Arabic for a martyr, in their hatred for God and his people. It's supposed to be the highest ethic for a Muslim is to die in the fight to wrest the land of Israel to themselves, or dying in the fight against other infidel clans and groups. Okay. For them, that's the instant, you're suddenly in paradise with 40 virgins, that kind of description. Okay. Back to our text, verse 9. I said, I'm not going to shepherd you. Whichever one is going to die, let it die. Whichever one is going to be destroyed, let it be destroyed. And the rest can all devour each other. So Zechariah is basically saying, I've had it with trying to shepherd shepherd these ones that were assigned to him to do. He says, whichever one's going to die, okay, let it die. And whoever's going to be destroyed, let them be destroyed. And the rest of them can destroy each other, devour each other. Okay. And again, in the explanation of these being Muslim lands and Muslim countries that are going to war against each other, this can apply. This is God's approach. Let them go destroy each other. Okay. A little more commentary. While the Muslims and countries fight and kill each other, God will allow this to play out to the end. Eat each other's flesh is literally phrased there. May not be literal, as Islam also forbids cannibalism. Rather, this could mean one country attacks another to consume the resources of that country, or one faction within one country consumes another faction. Okay. So it's continuing a possible way of looking at this. Okay. Any questions, comments, rebukes at this point?
Yeah, it's going back a little bit of a ways, but you had mentioned the ones that are bound. And is that the fallen angels that are bound in Sheol, or is that something different?
It would be within the realm of possibility if you interpret this prophecy maybe a little bit more to end times and the beginning of Messiah's reign, where the angels that rebelled are tied up and in Sheol, or in the pit, I should say. That would be, yeah, you can look at it that way if you look at this with a different interpretation. So yeah, it's within their own. The fun part of interpreting prophecy is when you finally see it happen, you're going to go, "Oi, now that makes sense. Why did I think the other way?" You know, um, that's why when you're discussing prophecy that hasn't yet happened, you always have to be mindful of the fact that it's so easy to get it wrong, but it's going to be so obviously right when it happens. And so, I'm mentioning my interpretation, but I'm not saying this has got to be it. I can very much be wrong, and you can all, poke fun at me for that later on if it turns out differently. So, I'm taking my best shot at understanding this and applying it. And if it turns out different, it does. Okay. Okay. Verse 10 in our text here. I took my staff Noam and snapped it in two in order to break my covenant, which I have made with all the peoples. Okay. On that day when it was broken, the most miserable of the sheep who paid attention to me knew that this was indeed a message from Adonai. Okay. So it could be that the sheep who paid attention to me would either be the peoples of the land who turned to God, or it could talk about Israel. Although if we're working in the context of the sheep being the people of the land, or Islamic folks, it's possible, that there's going to be a massive harvest of Muslims turning to Yehovah, to God, or to Yeshua, okay. The definition for beauty there, Noam, kindness, pleasantness, delightfulness, beauty, and favor. And all the peoples, kol ha'amim, literally all the peoples. Note, all the peoples are not all my people. The context about the Islamic nations, the context is about the Islamic nations and around Israel. Again, I'm saying this from my point of view on the interpretation. I'm not demanding that everybody can only look at this as what I'm saying. But my big point on this is, notice it's all the people, because kol ha there as a prefix means the, amim is people. It'd be if it would be my people, it'd be something like amim, ami, my people. Okay. So that would be different in the Hebrew than God's people or my people. So there's a difference here. This is the people, not my people, in the Hebrew text, and that's could push an interpretation that's the prophecy is at least not directly about Israel. Okay, then the covenant briti, in this case, it's my covenant. The E sound at the end is personal, mine, me. Okay. It turns the word to my or me. So Brit is covenant. So Briti is my covenant. Okay. So even though the translation, the official translation is the covenant, literally it means my covenant. Okay. So the question is, which covenant is this? Because there's many iterations of covenants, and what we call Torah is a compilation of many different statements about covenants and promises, conditions, contracts, and all that. So which covenant are we talking about? And my suggestion is Isaiah 56. Okay. Here's what Adonai says: observe justice, do what is right, for my salvation is close to coming, my righteousness to being revealed. Happy is the person who does this, anyone who grasps it firmly, who keeps Shabbat and does not profane it, and keeps himself from doing any evil. A foreigner joining Adonai should not say, Adonai will separate me from his people. Likewise, the eunuch should not say, I am only a dried up tree. For here's what Adonai says: as for the eunuchs who keep my Shabbats, who choose what pleases me and holds fast to my covenant, in my house, within my walls, I will give them power and a name greater than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that will not be cut off. And the foreigners who join themselves to Adonai to serve him, to love the name of Adonai, and to be his workers, all who keep Shabbat and do not profane it, and hold fast to my covenant. I will bring them to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Okay. And so my point here is that the covenant is this basic covenant that says, let all who come, all who want to come, can come and be part of the family of God, become the people of God. And it doesn't matter where you come from. Okay. The idea is you're becoming, not you were. Okay. It's human logic to not allow anybody to progress beyond what they had been in the past, even to the point of faulting someone for being born with a particular skin color or not that skin color, or dishonoring people because they're from a different culture or a particular culture. Trying to push one culture on top of another. This is not the purpose of the point of God's contract, literally a contract with everybody, is those, regardless of where you come from, if you go and attach yourself to God, to walk in his ways, to follow his commandments, to do what he says, these are the promises. even the foreigner will be called his people. Even the eunuch will have a heritage. People without children will have a heritage of those that this person has trained to walk with God and to keep his commandments. So this is God's plan is inclusion. Okay. God has a special relationship with Israel, but the working out of that covenant includes people being added into Israel who weren't born into Israel. And that's a major point that we have to consider in how we look at how things play out. Oh yeah, one other verse. Adonai Elohim says, "He who gathers Israel's exiles, there are yet others I will gather besides those gathered already." And one other translation issue from somebody else, actually. Okay, back to verse 12. Any questions, comments, rebukes at this point? Okay, verse 12. I said to them, if it seems good to you, give me my wages. If not, don't. So they weighed out my wages, 30 silver shekels. Okay, or literally 30 silvers. Silver. Shekel means silver, by the way. Verse 13. Concerning that princely sum at which they valued me, Adonai said, throw it into the treasury. So I took the 30 shekels, the 30 silver, and threw them into the treasury of the house of Adonai. Okay. So you see something similar to this happening in Matthew 26, verse 14. Then one of the 12, one called Yehuda from Creote, anglicized as Judah Iscariot, went to the head Kohanim and said, what are you willing to give me if I turn Yeshua over to you? They counted out 30 silver coins and gave them to Yehuda, or to Judas. From then on, he looked for a good opportunity to betray him. Okay. And we know how the story goes. When Yehuda, who had betrayed him, saw that Yeshua had been condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 silver coins to the head Kohanim and elders, saying, I sinned in betraying an innocent man to death. What is that to us? They answered. That's your problem. Hurling the pieces of silver into the sanctuary, he left. Then he went off and hanged himself. The head Kohanim took the silver coins and said, it is prohibited to put this into the temple treasury because it is blood money. So they decided to use it to buy the potter's field as a cemetery for foreigners. This is how it came to be called the field of blood. The name it still bears. Okay. Akeldama, I think, is the Greek version of that phrase. No, dam, it's blood. Sorry, it's Hebrew, Akeldama. Then what Yirmiyahu, the prophet, spoke was fulfilled, and they took 30 silver coins, which was the price of the people of Israel agreed to pay for him. Okay, and used them to buy the potter's field, just as the Lord had directed me. Okay, so question is, why 30? Okay. Well, as it turns out, 30 pieces of silver is the price of a dead slave. Out of Shemot, Exodus 21:32, if the ox goers a male or female slave, its owner must give their master 12 ounces of silver. That works out to 30 shekels. And the ox is to be stoned to death. This would be considered an insult, and thus the princely sum, quote, princely price, quote unquote, is what was mentioned up above, that was weighed out for him. So obviously, Zechariah went to work being a shepherd. He took care of business, got all the sheep into the slaughter, and his pay was basically the value of a dead slave. Okay. Okay, so the question as to choices of sources here. Why quote this as from Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, possibly using Zechariah to hint at Yirmiyahu chapters 18 and 19? The Muslim nations surrounding Israel have rejected the molding and forming hands of God and are now to be broken up. Okay. Questions, comments, rebukes? Okay, verse 14. Then I snapped into my other staff, Hovalim, meaning bound together, in order to break up the brotherhood between Yehuda and Israel, which may mean to disrupt the brotherhood amongst Israelis, not so much along tribal lines, but religiously and politically, much like today. Israel is a rather divided country between religious factions and political factions, and it's hard to get anybody to agree on anything. Okay. Verse 15, Adonai said to me, this time take the equipment of a worthless shepherd, for I am going to raise up a shepherd in the land that won't bother about the ones which whom they have destroyed, who have been destroyed, won't seek out the young, won't heal the broken, and won't feed those standing still. On the contrary, he will eat the meat of the fat ones and break their hooves in pieces. Okay. Next, the word there in Hebrew means again, another, or more. It could be a repetitive or an additional statement. A lot of times you have, like Psalms, you have repetitive statements which say the same thing twice. Line upon line. The second line is basically a repeat of the first one, but stated a different way. So ode, meaning again or another or more, could be a different way of stating the same prophecy, which was just given above this. Okay. In other words, different way of putting it. Okay. And so that's the shepherd who ignores the sheep, but rather goes on to feed off of the sheep rather than causing them to grow and healthy and good for sale. Okay. So the let's see, where am I? Where's this in the text? The word foolish. Which actually means evilly. It's not something that we use in English. It's not a phrase we use in English, evilly, but or perverse. Okay. In the land, as ha'aretz, in the land, again, once again, not my land, but the land, possibly suggesting the Muslim lands surrounding Israel. And he won't tear, and he'll tear the hooves. I was trying to figure out how to explain that. And so complete is the lust for consumption. The evil shepherd even tears the hooves apart to get the last morsels of flesh or fat. That's kind of my take on that, because normally, you wouldn't bother with getting all the edible parts out of hooves because it's a lot of work. You have to tear the thing apart and boil it down, and you may not get a whole lot of meat or usable stuff out of it. Okay. The picture is the evil shepherd will only think of himself and not care at all about his duties or care for the flock. And we can see this going on in modern politics around Israel. The people that are running the countries don't necessarily care for or take good care of the people of that country. rather the leaders will consume the resources of the country and leave everybody else to fend for themselves or to keep them starved and downtrodden. So there's more for the me of the leader, who is using everybody to get what they want out of it. Okay. Verse 17. Woe to the worthless shepherd who abandons the sheep. May a sword strike his arm and his right eye. May his arm be completely withered and his right eye totally blinded. So this is quite a curse. And so God's point to leaders who do not feed the flock in the sense of teaching Torah are God's going to be very harsh on them. Okay. And again, to complete my idea on if this does point to Islam and Muslim countries, is this possibly a picture of the Muslim Antichrist? Okay. Ad-Dajjal is said to be a great deceiver, blind in one eye, and will declare himself to be Jesus and divine, and will work miracles to deceive people into thinking he is God. He will be Jewish and will be followed by Jews and women. Al-Dajjal will be slain by the Muslim Jesus. Okay, now this is their quotation, not mine. This is not from the scripture. That's Islamic. And you know what? Somehow I managed to not cite the location where that came from. My apologies. But this is what's stated about, somebody who's blind in one eye. It could be an Islamic devil character. Okay. And then another option, since the right arm is often significant of strength and the eyes is considered as wisdom, Islam, which judges of both wise and powerful, will be crippled and derelict. That's a possible explanation of that part of the prophecy. Okay. Now this is, I acknowledge this is a different take compared to what a lot of other people do about this, but to me, this seems to make sense. So take it as you will. And, if you have questions, comments, rebukes, or a better argument, I'm certainly willing to hear it, which you can start right now. Questions, comments, or rebukes? Okay. No answers? No questions? Okay. Well, God bless you, kids. If you have any questions anywhere along the line from this, certainly give me a call, text, write, text or, email. I'm available to talk about this. Okay. Father, thank you for bringing us together. And Lord, please take what I've done here tonight, and if it's useful, help people remember and use it. If it's not useful, then help everybody forget it quickly. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together. Bless us through this week. We look forward to your coming Shabbat, and we look forward to walking with you and loving you and serving you. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you, Rabbi G.